personally watched, I don't know, maybe 1,000 videos of people doing engine swaps, but this is my first to do like all on my own. And it's been a learning curve. One of the things that always struck me as odd is when they were doing engine swaps, even with kits, they would have the engine out like a dozen times before actually getting it in for good. And now I understand there's so much that has to happen to get an engine that wasn't meant to fit in a car to actually fit. And last week, that's what we did. A lot of hammering, a lot of cutting, basically everything we need to do to get this thing to fit in there. Now it's in, so we can actually make it run. And to be able to make it run, we need a few things, some headers, which hopefully, if everything went well, that video already came out. And we need to put all of our gaskets on. This thing has a rear main seal leak, it seems. It seems like these were leaking. It's hard to tell because it sat for so long. It could just be seeping, which evidently is different than leaking. Either way, we got parts. Let me show you. So we did get some parts and a lot of bubble wrap. One is a clutch fork. This is what actuates the clutch. We didn't have one of those because we basically built our own transmission out of pieces and parts. The other is a gasket set. This is a full gasket set. We won't use all of them, but a lot of times it's cheaper if you're gonna be doing a ton of gaskets to just get the full set and not use, like, we're not gonna use our head gaskets and stuff. We'll save those for later when we swap the heads out. Well, we'll do our rear main seal, valve cover, intake, all that stuff. We also got our engine separator plate. And this, I don't know if we're gonna use today. It'll probably be in a different video, but we got a shifter. It's billet, it's awesome. It's gonna be awesome. Almost forgot, we also got, big boy starter. And then we've got an oil filter bracket coming in to relocate our oil filter. The one that I got is too big, so I ordered another one. And today we're gonna be putting all of this in, and then hopefully, if it all goes well, getting the engine to fire up. It's a big goal. Let's get to work. So the first thing I wanted to do was just get this intake gasket on and get the intake mounted. We converted this from EFI to a carburetor. I've never done this before, and I just want to make sure we have all the parts we need. These old American pushrod V8s come with separate intake manifold gaskets that kind of have to be glued together. It's really not that hard, you just kind of have to pay attention to what you're doing. A little extra RTV, never hurt anybody. Next, I wanted to get the valve cover gaskets done as well. These are cork gaskets, and over time they kind of glue themselves to the valve covers. A trick I learned with the 911 is when you have a gasket that is glued to the valve cover through heat cycles and just time, fire is the trick. Get them really, really hot. Sometimes you can even light them on fire, and it's not that they burn off, but it releases them from the surface of the valve cover, and you can literally just peel them off. It is an incredible tool and way better than scraping it with a razor. I threw a quick coat of paint on these, didn't really pay a lot of attention to it because I think I'm going to be replacing them soon anyway, but I wanted them to be, but I went ahead and painted the rest of this engine, so I felt like I might as well paint the valve covers. Oil pan gaskets are one of those things that are really miserable, in my opinion, to do underneath the car, especially if you have a cross member that goes underneath the oil pan. So while the engine's out, we're going to go ahead and drop this oil pan and then flip the engine over and do it the easy way with the engine upside down. This is a multi-piece gasket too. It's kind of a pain, but again, RTV is your friend, and we just tried to seal it up as much as possible. Next, I've got to flip the engine back over and put the valve covers back on. Then we'll be ready to assemble our transmission components. The easiest way I've found to do clutches on a car is with the engine hanging from the hoist. We're going to leave it in this position to mount it in the car, so it's going to be on this hoist until it's mounted to the engine.
Now anytime that I do a clutch, I go ahead and do a rear main seal. It's a very expensive gasket to replace because you have to pull all of this stuff off to get to it. So to me, it just makes sense. They're like $6. It's just a no-brainer to replace this while you're doing your clutch. Along with that, we put in a new pilot bearing and all the other new components that you're supposed to replace when you do a clutch job.
No! 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 And with that, our engine and trans are back together. This is super exciting. But before we put it back in, we've got to clean up our we've got to clean up our engine bay a little bit. I'm not gonna go crazy here, but we're gonna make it look a little bit better. And then I've got to get rid of a part that has been driving me nuts since the very beginning of this swap. Better?
I decided to put the starter on before putting the engine in. There's not a lot of space down there with the engine in, so I figure the more I can get on it, the better. Next, it was time to run some wiring, so I got a 4-gauge starter wire and ran it from the battery up to the front of the car. This will be our main power source for our starter.
Okay, so I spent yesterday doing some housekeeping because I had to wait on one part, which is here. Let me show you what I did so that you'll understand where we're going from here. Something I didn't understand is that Ford starters from like the 80s, 90s, I think even like the 70s, didn't have a solenoid on the starter. So if you'll see, if you're used to looking at starters, you'll know normally there's a solenoid right there, and you plug your switch power into that, and that connects the starter power basically and makes the starter go. Ford did not do that. Instead, they have a remote starter solenoid, and so I ended up having to put mine down. Well, actually you can see it. It's that thing right there, kind of in the footwell. It's not gonna stay there, don't worry. I think what I'm actually gonna do is run it into the floorboard and build a little fuse panel at the footwell of the passenger floorboard. We'll get there in a minute. I just need to put it somewhere where it would stay, and that is gonna be it. So we've got power, which we ran a new power wire from the battery, which in these cars is right there. So we had new power wire running from there, down the frame rail, to the relay, which is right in here. And then we've got a power wire that runs out the bottom that is gonna actually run to the starter. So when I put power to this wire right here, the starter will turn. This is my fuel pump wire. Both of those I just pulled power up so that I would be able to access it. And then I have the battery over there, which is gonna run everything. Got a jump box, which will help keep power going. And then this, which will be my remote starter. So this will connect to my switch power we'll cut the fuel pump on. That's gonna control our run. So when we're ready to kill it, we'll just pull the fuel, and we'll use this to turn the starter on, get the car to run. I hope. This is the part that we were looking for, or that we were waiting on. This is another oil cooler, number 3. Not oil cooler, it's an oil filter adapter. And I needed this one because it is very thin. You can see it's 1 1/4 inch, which is the widest that you can be for this swap to work, which I did not know.
Even after making all of this room, this engine is still very, very difficult to get in. But it does fit. It finally fits.
All right, this is it. This is the last, well, okay. I'm not gonna hold my breath, but I think this is the last time it's going in. And this is the first time that it has been mounted without anything else touching it. Everything that's on there has to be on there, other than, you know, the stuff that goes on the top and the sides. All the clearance is done. I actually had to pull it out again and clearance back around the trans tunnel a little bit more. You can see the clearance here. Well, it's good now, but none of that, all of that was touching. All of this area right in here was touching the engine when we started. We've pushed it back with the 8-pound sledge and made more room. Now we've got our EGR stuff, or maybe, I don't know what it was in the back, plugged up. I guess it's EGR, that makes sense. So we plugged those. Those gave us more issues with clearance, so we had to hammer that out. Now we're good. Also, you can see, it actually looks like we have plenty of space for our oil cooler, but you can't install the engine with the bigger oil cooler. It seems like, anyway. Either way, this is the one we're going with. For you guys that are doing this swap at home, maybe you've done it, maybe you're looking for an oil I keep calling it a cooler, but a filter relocator, Permacool, I think it's like $39.70 or something. That one works really, really well and fits. So now, all we have to do is add on all of our accessories to make it run. We gotta take care of spark, we gotta take care of air and fuel, and yeah, then we should just be good to go. The good news is I rebuilt the entire fuel system to this car when I first bought it. So the fuel system is ready to go for this engine. We just gotta plug it up. We've got to figure out a distributor and stuff, which I guess we're gonna do now. Very excited, let's do it. This massive thing is an HEI distributor. I don't know what that means, it's a GM thing, but basically what it does is it's a coil and distributor kind of all in one. So you have these wires to plug up, and then once you're wired up, you're just done. So there's no coil, everything is all within this unit. So it's pretty cool, but it is massive and not gonna fit under the stock hood at all. I've got to figure out how to wire this thing. You might notice this is a different header. Well, sort of. My other header didn't work, the really cool one that I made. I know, I was sad too. And so what I did is I cut the block hugger headers that I bought off eBay and welded in 4 sections of pipe. I didn't film it because I didn't know if it was gonna work. This is mild steel, this is supposedly stainless. It seems like it welded-ish, so we'll see. I just need something to get me by for this first start, and you know, if they crack or whatever, rot out from the inside, whatever stainless and mild steel do when they touch each other, it'll be fine. We just need something that'll run, and this, I think, is gonna fit. I tested it, but not since fully welded. Certain these are not gonna fit with the spark plugs in. I had to cut out the little center portion. Just a quick reminder, this is where we started, and this is what we have now. You can see it's extended a little bit. Not nearly as pretty, but much more functional. Let's see if this works. I've just been hoping this would work out. Oh yeah. Easy. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Okay. Header is headers are on, both of them. The first one I built and the third one I built. The second one is going to be a very fancy paperweight. All of my wiring is done-ish. We've got the engine set to top dead center and the distributor lined up with that roughly. We'll have to do a little bit of adjustment. Didn't connect the vacuum advance. There's still some places that need to be plugged in the intake manifold, but I've got to get some plugs for those. And we'll probably get some vacuum ports to be able to pull vacuum off of that if we need to. I haven't tested my fuel again. I'm gonna have to get some fuel hose as well. So what we're gonna do first for our first test, before we do anything, is we're gonna put oil in the engine, very important. The first time we ever did an engine swap, we forgot to put oil in it. I don't think we told you guys that. It was the LS for the Datsun. Still worked because of LS, but it's pretty scary. So we're gonna put some oil in this, and then we will test our fuel pump, make sure that's still functional. I don't know why it wouldn't be. And then we're gonna test our starter. And we'll go ahead and probably turn it over a little bit just to get the oil pumped through there before we start trying to actually run this thing. But first things first, oil. Actually, first things first, oil, filter, and relocation kit. That would have been a very ugly, very messy spill. All right, we're gonna check for fuel first. It's gonna be the messiest. All right, we got fuel. That's good. That is good. Just gonna spin the engine over, and I think, yeah, that should build some oil pressure and send some of this fresh new oil into our engine. This oil is not gonna stay in very long. Basically, we're just gonna run it through the engine for a little while and then dump it just to clean the engine out because it's sat for so long. All right, here we go. A little nervous. 2, 3. Nothing. Sit. All right, so now we know our switch works, and this should make our car start or explode. Ready? 3, 2, 1. So I just Googled and found out that this distributor needs one wire to run, which I thought was really cool. The green is a tack, which is great because my tack originally is mechanical, so we'll be replacing that with a digital one, and I like digital gauges better. The install is easier, in my opinion. All right, so there's that, and then we'll strip this back. This is obviously just super temporary, just to kind of get us going today. Okay, so that's wired. That was easy. Fuel. Ooh, leaks everywhere. Okay. All right, I think that I've got everything worked out. Now, unfortunately for us, the dude came to cut the grass now, of all times. And he's gonna be a while, so we're just gonna go for it, and I'm sorry for the lawnmower noise, but hopefully, this glorious American V8 will drown that out. There's a lot of bits and pieces here. 5 parts. Timing, I just eyeballed it, so we'll see. But thanks to the 911, I know a good bit about timing now, so we should know pretty quickly if it's out. All right, I think we're ready. I've got fuel in the car. Let's see if she'll fire. Yeah, I think we've got everything. There's a problem here. We are leaking oil profusely from our little relocator here. So let's get that fixed, and then I'll show you the fire that this thing makes. That was very exciting. No movie magic here. No movie magic here. That was the very first try. I've watched videos, like growing up, I used to watch shows like Overhauling and like, I don't know, these shows that would put these V8s or whatever else in a car and then start it and it would turn over on the first try. And I'd always be like, yeah, right, that doesn't happen. Turns out it does happen every now and then, and it happened on this one. I've got a headache from yelling and also probably the heat, but I'm so excited that this thing runs. Now, we did spew a ton of oil out of our remote filler. I think I fixed it. We're gonna find out. So we'll put a little bit more Haviland in there and give it another go. There's just something about a fire-breathing American V8 that just gets my blood going. It gets me happy, it gets me the all, it's good, it's good, it's good. So, man, this is just, look, I used to hate working on motors, but after a while, I mean a year and a half ago, I'd never pulled an engine, never gotten one running on its own, and this car kind of started that for me, getting that original 4-cylinder to run. And now I think I might know a little bit about what I'm doing. It actually ran. It did the thing, like it wanted to. Wow, how exciting. All right, we're gonna throw some more oil in here and give it another fire. It's good, man, it's so good. We're gonna go to the old phone here, give you guys some close-up shots around the car. All right, so over here, all right, so now you can see we're running to our fuel. Give ourselves a little bit more fuel here. Let's see. Adding some fuel. Pretty cool. All right, here we go. Let's see, we'll fire it up again. Put the cap back on. And see if we fixed our oil issue. Woo! Check this out. Killed it. Oh man, that is too cool. Wow. There we go. Now it doesn't, obviously the timing's probably gone. Oh, we probably ran out of fuel. I don't know, there's a lot of things that were probably happening there that made it just stall out. And I'm not worried about that, because that is all in tuning. The engine runs. The engine runs. It's a V8 and MG and it sounds just throaty and awesome. So much better than the little 1.8 liter that was in there. So we've gone from a 1.8 up to a 5 liter V8. So that's, what is that? What's 1.8 times 3? No. Or more than 3 times, right? Yeah, more than 3 times the size. And I think we've tripled the power as well already. Now we're gonna put heads and a cam in this thing eventually once we get it all kind of dialed in. We have to replace the rear end when we do that. Guy's doing weed eating now, so it's super loud. But we're gonna do that, and that should bump us up into the 300, maybe 400 if we get crazy range. And this thing should be an absolute monster. It's gonna be awesome. So let me show you this. Like I said, we've still gotta do a cooling system before we can let it idle and run and all that. But we've got our transmission right there. That's it. The cardboard is covering it, but you see, that's it. So we'll jack that up into place, cut out our hole, and stick our shifter right there. I've got to measure for a drive shaft, so we'll do that in the next video, get that sent off to be made. And we're keeping the stock rear end, and I know that's not super smart because the stock rear end's not made for this kind of power, but I think at stock 5.0 power, we're gonna be okay. I'm gonna baby it. I'm not gonna be launching it. And the reason I'm doing that is because my wheels are set up for this rear end. When we go to an 8.8, which is what we're gonna go to, it's gonna make the car wider, which isn't a big deal. We'll just build the car wider. I like wide stuff. But I'm not ready to do that now. I wanna get this car on the road. I wanna drive it. I wanna get some driving footage of it. I wanna get it painted. I've got other things I'd rather do. And then when we get to doing the performance upgrades, we'll throw the rear end and probably a 4-link in with that. That is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm so stoked. That's 2 cars in the past month that we've gotten running. It's just amazing to hear it, to see it, and to know that this car's got a new life. I bought this car from a driveway. It had been sitting there for 30 years. I actually got the license plate still from 1993, the last time this car was on the road. We brought this thing back from the depths of rust, from the death that is a sitting car, and it is about to be an absolute ripper. All right, so what's next for this build? We've got coolant lines and radiator and stuff that we're gonna build next. I've gotta order a ton of stuff for that. We've got the drive shaft, which will get made for us, and then just connecting the interior, making everything work together. Man, that is so loud. Why is it so loud? I hope you guys are as stoked as I am about this. I think you must have noticed that I've been putting a lot of effort into this. I'm trying to finish some stuff. Evidently, you guys like it when we finish build. So I'm gonna try to finish this build as soon as I can, as quick as I can, and we are moving in the right direction. This is a huge, huge goal out of the way for this car, and now everything else is just connecting the dots, putting it back together, and then driving it down the road. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry about the weed eaters and the lawnmowers. I'll see you in the next one.